I wanted to start with a story, and the story of a little girl named Geetha. This is not you, Geetha. It's not in any way related to you, but I thought it would be a good story to start with. So Geetha was born into a family of 3 kids, and her birth obviously brought happiness to her family. But as the years ticked on, a few years fast forward, what she realized was while her parents were happy, a lot of you would relate to this and some of you may not, her mum always had this little disappointment that she didn't have a little boy. So mum kept trying, and finally she had a 3rd child as a baby boy. Now, because of this process, the seeds of not being good enough started being planted in the head and the heart of this little girl called Geetha. So what she did was tried with all her might to do the things that would get her the attention of her parents and also get her feeling that she's good enough to all the community and the people around her. So what she did was she did what she would do best, which is do very well in her studies, as a lot of children do, particularly from the Asia region. So she studied really hard, did very well in school, topped her classes, did well, relatively well in university, won awards, and then got a job in a pretty good consultancy. It was a top consultancy in her country. Now, I want to ask you all a question, Mano, and everybody on the call. So what do you think on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being super confident and 1 being not so confident, was the confidence level of this little girl when she had finished sort of her university degree and got to work? Where do you think her confidence level was?
Maybe 5.
Keep going. Any other? There's no right or wrong.
Maybe 8.
More than 5? Okay. Well, will you be surprised if I told you that this little girl's confidence from the ages of about 10 to 13 was about a 2.5. And then from the ages of about 13 to 18 was about probably at best 3.5. Now, you're probably wondering, why the heck is this woman on this call when she's meant to be talking about building a successful career on your terms, talking about confidence? The first thing that I want to say is that little girl is none other than myself. So my name, my middle name is actually Sangeetha. So Geetha, I actually share a name. So in my house, they call me Geetha, but for the rest of the world, I'm Maria because my first name is Maria. So confidence was one of those things that I absolutely struggled with. And the reason I'm actually talking to you about this is, for me, there are about 4 pillars that help you build an absolute stellar career and a career that you want to build on your terms. And confidence happens to be one of those pillars. I don't know if you recognize that little image on the left-hand side. That's the fearless girl in Wall Street. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but it was one of my favorite statues. And I had photos taken when I went to New York a few years ago. So one thing that I want to say is this: confidence is not something that you're born with. A lot of people say that that's absolutely there when you're born, and some people are born with it and I can't do anything, but I don't believe in that at all. Being confident is nothing more than an absolute unshakable belief in yourself, and it's something that you can create. Just because you may not have it to the extent that you would like to have it, it doesn't mean that you can't have it. At any point in time you want to, you can absolutely do that. So what I did personally, because I struggled with it in my early teens and my late teens, was I did a few things so that I could build my confidence, because I absolutely believed that I could change my situation. So the first thing I did was I changed who I surrounded myself with. A lot of people say to me, Maria, you know, the biggest challenge for me is actually my house and the people that I'm related to. You can't change that. I agree. You can't change the people that you're related to in your family, and I'm not suggesting that you do in any way, shape, or form. But what you can do is surround yourself with people who will actually lift you up, just like you're doing in this group. I mean, the way you support each other is amazing. I don't know if you've heard the saying that the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with are the people who actually define what your life turns out to be. So you really need to think about the 5 people who you spend most of your time with and what they do with your confidence, with your career and your life. The other thing that I did was I improved my self-talk. I went and did a lot of personal development courses, especially in my early 20s, where I helped change my mindset. It's all in the head, as you know. I mean, intelligence-wise, I was reasonably bright. But the thing that mattered the most was actually my self-talk and my self-confidence and everything that surrounded that. And one of the things I did in the process was, and every one of you can do this, is when you look back at your past, there is enough of those little or big successes that you can refer to and kind of tell yourself that anything is possible because you've had successes in the past. So why is it not possible to have it in the future and have it right now? The other thing I do is practice gratitude. It's something that I do every single day. Barb, who's on the call, who's on my team, knows the management meeting that we have on Fridays. We start with gratitude. I am enormously grateful for where I get to live today. Because I was born in India, I could have been in any situation, any circumstance, but I'm lucky to be where I am today in the position that I am. So I'm absolutely privileged. So what is there not to be grateful about? And when you practice gratitude, you can't be anything but comfortable and confident with where you are today. The other last one is a little bit funny. People might smile, but it was actually taught to me by one of my most favorite mentors. And that is when you're not feeling great, especially in IT, we're sitting down at a desk like this 8 hours a day. And if you've got self-doubt in your head or you've got confidence issues, one of the things that you can do is literally get up and change your physiology of your body. There is a lot of science behind it. I'm going to let you all do the research because we've got limited time. But when you actually change your physical state of your body, it helps in ways that you will not believe. For example, when I go and speak on stage, one of the things is I do a certain particular ritual that I do before I get up on stage so that I'm actually absolutely pumped to go and speak. And I've seen some of the world's best speakers do that. Before they get up on stage, they literally, some of them jump up and down because it changes your heart rate, it changes your physiology. So if you're about to go into a meeting where you're about to present to people, now you may not be able to jump up and down in the corridor, but you can certainly step away to the ladies or do what you need to do to change your physiology and even say a few words to yourselves that actually helps change and shift your confidence. The second thing is courage. Actually, before I talk about courage, one thing I wanted to say is this. All of you on this call are leaders in some way, shape, or form. And one of the things, especially during COVID, what became absolutely apparent is that people look to leaders for certainty. When things are very uncertain in the workplace, in the world with COVID, none of us know when this is going to end. When there's so much uncertainty, you are looking to a leader who is confident and has the absolute certainty or the courage to bring the certainty to an environment so that your team can follow you. So if you can improve and practice on confidence, then it will help you lead and attract an amazing team that you could lead to wherever you want to lead them, and including your career as well. So courage is another thing. Courage is a tricky one. The ability to do something that frightens oneself, that's an absolute definition of courage. The ability to act on one's beliefs despite danger or disapproval. I can only imagine in all the cultures we have on this call today, there is a lot of danger and disapproval when you do something that takes a lot of courage. It's not easy in certain cultures to actually stand up or stand out and be courageous. Courage is also daring, audacity, boldness, grit, amongst many other things. Now, the best thing about courage is this. I don't know any simple way other than to practice being courageous. And you're going to ask me, what does that look like? So last week, I had the director of a reasonably large systems integrator reach out to me and said he wanted me to talk to one of his ladies who's been in their organization for a while, who's really struggling with courage, especially in meeting situations and presentation situations. So I spoke to her, and this lovely lady said, Maria, you know, when I'm in a meeting, if they talk about operational activities, I feel comfortable. But if they talk about strategic things, I'm not very good at it. And that's why my director has sent me to have a chat with you. And I said, well, can I ask you a question? Is the problem about the operational versus strategic, or do you ever actually put your hand up in the meeting? And she said, Maria, I actually don't. I always keep quiet in meetings because there are so many senior people in the meetings. And please keep in mind, this lady was actually in her 40s. So it doesn't matter where you're at in your career. It can be, courage is always an issue for all of us. It's not unique to one particular person. So what I said to her was this: the next time you're in a meeting, well, I actually asked her the question, why do you not put your hand up and what's the issue? And she said, it's because I genuinely don't understand what they're saying and everything that they say just goes over my head. I said, well, the next time you're in a meeting, can I request this of you? Could you please say, I'm sorry, but that's not my subject matter expertise. Could you possibly repeat what you said? Because if I understand what you're saying, I'd be able to contribute. Now that takes courage, and it also takes courage because you're afraid of being judged, of not having the knowledge. And she said, you know what, Maria, that's much better than my boss worrying that I don't have the capability at all, and then getting me coaching and mentoring because he clearly feels I don't have the competence. So all I can say, and I gave her the homework, is to put herself in those situations, in those meetings that make her super uncomfortable. So the more you put yourself out there, just like the ladies have, Geetha and Mano, in every one of your sessions, just put yourself out there, speak as much as you can, put your hand up in meetings when it's very uncomfortable. You'll be really surprised, because none of you would be here today if you weren't very smart. That's a given, right? You're all intelligent, brave to be able to do what you're doing. So maybe perhaps put yourself out there if you feel that you don't have sufficient courage. All of us have that up and down. And give yourself the opportunity to practice as much as you can, because with practice, it gets easier and it gets better. Authenticity is the third pillar. We spoke about confidence, courage. The third one is authenticity. Now, a lot of people ask me what the heck does that actually mean as well, because a lot of people are talking about authentic leadership without defining it at times. And there's a reason why I'm going to talk about this. Authenticity means that you're true to your own personality, your values, and your spirits, regardless of pressure from your peers or from your management or your organization that you work for. You're honest with yourself and with others, and you take responsibility for your mistakes. If a team member makes a mistake, you own it. It's not just that one person's issue, it's everybody's issue, because you're part of a team. And your values, ideals, and actions align. So what does that look like in practice? So understand what your values are and what you stand for. So for me, there are some things that are absolutely non-negotiable. Inequality is not an option for me. It has to be present. Equality has to be present. So if I walk into a meeting or if I walk into an environment where I can see people being discriminated against, I don't care if I'm going to lose a contract that's worth $500,000, I will walk away. I've had female team members, harassed in ways that I found out about, and I walked away from $1 million contract. So do what you believe in and stand for what you believe in. Then you know you're authentic and true to your own values. Be honest to those values and admit ignorance, just like I gave advice to that beautiful lady that I was talking to last week. It's okay to say that you don't know about something, because it's impossible for all of us to know everything. None of us do. I certainly don't. I'm learning every single day. So admitting ignorance actually makes you even more of an authentic leader, and you inspire other people to be more authentic. What will also happen is, even if you fear judgment of others saying something that you don't know something, you'll actually attract the kind of people who become your tribe. This group here is a tribe of your own. So the people here are so supportive of you. So if you can imagine all of you together start climbing that corporate ladder, you will support each other because you're authentic and true to your values, and you support each other. So authenticity is so much better than any one of the values, because you'll get there with your heart and soul intact. So here's some science behind why authenticity works. First of all, if you're more authentic, you feel happier and you have higher self-esteem. So that kind of helps with the first pillar that I spoke about, which is confidence. Showing up authentically brings greater satisfaction and lower stress levels. I think all of us would love a little bit of that. We're all in IT, and it's not easy when you have to meet deadlines and do everything that you need to do. Also, authenticity increases the level satisfaction in romantic relationships. Now, why am I talking about that? Relationships matter regardless of what. I mean, there is no life without all of it being complete. We're not machines who, I suppose, perform just in work. If the home life and the rest of it is not working well, then the work doesn't work either. So for you to actually work at a career where you're going to demand what you want, then you have to be happy as a whole human being. So hence the importance of something such as authenticity. The last one, before I launch into something else, is this. This is something that I learned from a very, very special mentor of mine. He talks about success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. Now, every one of you I know, I'm sure, at some level has a plan or a goal to climb the ladder, become a leader in some way, shape, or form. And I know all of you are already leaders. But just remember this. If you think about some of the famous people that you can think of, I mean, I'm picking probably a Hollywood actor. I don't know if all of you know who Robin Williams is. Do most of you know? No response? Does that mean it's a no?
Yeah, I do not know.
I don't know either.
Okay, so Robin Williams is a very, very well-known Hollywood actor. He's a comedian. He's one of those guys who's made several movies that have won awards, Oscars, etc. He's a comedian. And I believe he's not just funny on screen, but he's also funny in person. He is a man who made the entire world laugh, but he committed suicide a few years ago. And everybody was devastated because we saw, for all intents and purposes, this is a man who was successful financially, in every sense of the word. We saw him as a successful human being, but he had reached success without fulfillment. And what do I mean? I've got so many stories of people who are multimillionaires, very successful, who have a goal that they set. They want $1 million, or they want that CEO position, or they want the managing director, partner, whatever it is that they want. They get there, and there's a feeling of emptiness. I know you may not be able to relate to it now, but I do promise that if you do this one thing, and that is when you're actually climbing the ladder, think about all the other things, because the goal itself, without gratitude, without celebration with the people that you love and contribution, that success will feel very empty when you get there, because you'll reach that goal and you go, was that it? Is this what I worked 10 years for, 20 years for, 30 years for? Because you have all the money, but you don't have that sense of fulfillment, and your heart is not in it, and your soul's not full of joy. So gratitude is one way to get fulfillment. Celebration, making sure you celebrate every one of your successes along the way, and contribution. I mean, what you're all doing through this particular forum is contribution. Contribution is giving back, because nothing makes a human being more happier than when you contribute to another human being. It might be contributing to the country that you came from. For me, that's something that's very important. The village that you were perhaps brought up in or born in, your colleagues. Maybe you might catch a colleague who's a little bit upset, a little bit down, and possibly even in tears for some reason, and you take half an hour of your time to contribute to that human being. If you climb that ladder while you're doing all of that, it's going to be that much more beautiful and that much more fulfilling when you do reach that level. Mano, I'm going to actually come to the final slide, but I wanted to ask if there's any questions, or do you want me to have the Q&A at the end?
Yeah, we can just go ahead. I don't see any questions in the chat window, Maria. We will wait for them to come up with the questions.
Not a problem. I talk really fast. So what I went through is the 4 pillars, and I'll also reconfirm why I spoke about this, because if you want to succeed in your career on your terms, I know every one of you has the technical ability. What differentiates you and what gets you to the top is confidence, is one thing that we spoke about, and to know in your heart that you don't have to be born with it. There is no such thing. There are people who are born with it. Courage, which, as I said, comes a lot better when you practice authenticity, authentic leadership. And of course, the last one, which is success without fulfillment, is the ultimate failure. Making sure that when you climb that ladder, you're doing all the things that make your heart happy, so that when you reach that goal, you don't feel empty as a human being. Now, I don't know about you. Some of you may have thought she's probably going to tell me how I'm going to make it to the top by working less, or by working less hours, or by doing it slightly differently. I can tell you one thing, based on my own experience and a lot of the hundreds and thousands of women that I've spoken to over the years, that is almost impossible. Sometimes the work-life balance seems impossible one, but what I can say is if you have these 4 pillars somewhat worked out and constantly work on them, it helps you get there a lot easier, and you get there with your heart full of joy and gratitude. Now, before I finish, I wanted to actually read something out to you. I don't know if this is a poem that people have heard. The first time I heard this, it moved me beyond anything that has moved me, but it was actually read out by Nelson Mandela in an inaugural speech in 1994 when he was released from jail after 30-odd years. And this is my poem to all of you. Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens most of us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in every one of us. And as we let our own light shine, we consciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So my request to you is this: always remember, as you're climbing that ladder and trying to achieve that level of success, remember that you're always powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and brave, and powerful beyond measure. Thank you.